Hey, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another video. This one is going to be about an upcoming bundle that will be entering the vault, the Silvar Devourer of the Free bundle. Now, Silvar Devourer of the Free is going to be coming with 4 cards, the first of which is the Mythic Cat Nightmare Silvar Devourer of the Free. Silvar is 14 mana for a 6/4. It has Menace, it's a legendary creature, and it is a companion creature. So in order for Silvar's companion ability to be active, your starting deck must contain 4 or more cards that can create human tokens. And if you meet that requirement, then when Silvar is cast, you're going to create a Trin Champion of Freedom token. That token is a support with 2 shields and has at the end of your turn create 2 human soldier tokens. If you are wondering, Silvar does indeed count toward its own companion ability as one of the 4 cards that produces human tokens. Silvar also has the ability, at the beginning of each combat, you may lose a reinforcement from your first human creature. If you do, this creature gets +1/+1. That +1/+1 is a permanent buff. Then it gains prevent damage until end of turn. That means that with Silvar, if you're able to get the companion ability token to come down, then you can just feed off of your own little human soldier tokens to boost up Silvar permanently. Now, the next card in the bundle is Molten Echoes. Molten Echoes is 13 mana for a red support enchantment, and it reads that whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, reinforce it until end of turn. That creature gains haste until the beginning of your next turn. So this is kind of like a, Mirror March Light, in that it's going to reinforce and take away that reinforcement. However, Mirror March can make many reinforcements, whereas this one just makes 1 reinforcement. The upside to this one over Mirror March, albeit a small one, is that it doesn't have a requirement for some number of red gems to be down. Now, not everyone has Mirror March. If you don't have Mirror March, then Molten Echoes makes for an excellent substitute to that card. It has definitely its moments where it can be very powerful, especially because that creature just needs to enter the battlefield under your control. You do not need to cast it. So I actually had a pretty sweet game using Molten Echoes and Brokon, where I went up against another Brokon deck, bad things happened to opposing Brokon thanks to Molten Echoes. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that clip now. This clip here kind of represents Molten Echoes at its best. So I've got 3 Gaias in my hand. I'm ultimately going to be getting enough mana here to be able to play 4 of them, which, because of Molten Echoes reinforcing them, means that I get 8 Gaias. You can see these are both max health Brokons, and it's a one-shot. That's it. So that's Molten Echoes. Alrighty, the next card in the bundle is Call the Coppercoats. So Call the Coppercoats is a 9 mana white spell that says create X human soldier tokens. X is 3 plus the number of reinforcements of target opposing creature. Then you may drain 6 mana from your hand. If you do, repeat this effect once. Now, in order for Call the Coppercoats to work, your opponent does need to have a creature. You'll see that this says, based on the number of reinforcements of target opposing creature, you do need to be able to target an opposing creature. This also means that if your opponent's creatures all have hexproof, as an example, you definitely can't cast Call the Coppercoats because there's nothing that you can target to be able to create all of those soldier tokens. Now, I found that Call the Coppercoats worked really well in conjunction with Divine Visitation, which turned all of the little human soldier tokens into angel tokens. And I found that it was extra sweet when I knew that I was going to be going up against something like Nissa Worldwaker, so a planeswalker that I knew had abilities that would be making tokens, and then I could just go ahead and use Call the Coppercoats to make me human soldier tokens, but more of them than however many tokens my opponent played, which was pretty cool. So I actually got a pretty sweet clip of this one too, where my opponent had used March of the Multitudes, and then this thing in Divine Visitation did some work. So I'm going to go ahead and roll that clip for you guys right now. So this was my favorite example of using Call the Coppercoats. My opponent had just played March of the Multitudes, and so I got Divine Visitation and then used Call the Coppercoats on the March of the Multitudes tokens. Now, because of the current token bug, I had to sacrifice 2 creatures instead of 1 in order to put it onto the battlefield. But this is where you're going to see now a whole bunch of angels come down. Lots and lots and lots of angels that are definitely going to be able to block those 1/1 lifelink critters. And then on top of that, Silvar is going to go ahead and produce 2 more of those angel tokens for us at end of turn. Alrighty, and the final card in the bundle is Species Specialist. So Species Specialist is 10 mana for a 4/5. It's a black human warrior, and when a creature you control dies or loses a reinforcement, draw a card. If it was a creature token, that card gains 4 mana. Now, Species Specialist is not quite working as intended, at the very least at the time of my recording this video. So I played with the bundle for quite a few hours, and I only ever got Species Specialist to draw me a card once, and that was when Silvar removed a reinforcement of Species Specialist specifically. But when Molten Echoes removed a reinforcement, or something else killed one of the creatures, or when Silvar ate one of his own little teeny human tokens, none of those worked for drawing cards. So I don't actually have very much for you guys on like how good is Species Specialist going to be, just because once again, at the time of my recording this, it wasn't quite working properly. Now, if you take a look at the bundle as a whole, at the very least, with like with Molten Echoes, Call the Coppercoats, and Species Specialist, it's running a red, a white, and a black card. And there is no red, white, and black Planeswalker in Puzzle Quest at this time. So the only way to be able to use all of these cards together is to use a colorless Planeswalker. So you need to be using all of them together with something like Karn, or Ugin, or the Eldrazi Desolation. It's the only way that you can get them all to work together. So I wound up getting some gameplay for you guys by playing all of them together with Karn. However, that being said, my suggestion for this bundle, if you go and pick it up for yourself, would be to play the cards separately. So I really liked using Silvar with Call the Coppercoats together in a red and white deck. I threw in Molten Echoes too. And so with that red-white deck, you're able to run those guys, but you can't run the Species Specialist, right? You can also run a black-white deck with Silvar and Call the Coppercoats, and that works pretty well too. And then as for Molten Echoes, you're going to want to run that in something where you're going to be able to pump out a bunch of creatures. So I liked Molten Echoes the most in a deck that had green and red together, since green has a whole bunch of ways of getting a whole bunch of consistent creatures down. Now, with all of that in mind, if you actually look at the cards of the bundle, so between Silvar, Molten Echoes, Call the Coppercoats, and Species Specialist, all the cards actually work together really well. So Silvar is going to be making human tokens every turn, and then is going to be taking away reinforcements of those tokens to buff itself. Molten Echoes is going to make it so that when your creatures enter the battlefield, the non-tokens, they're going to reinforce and then lose a reinforcement. Call the Coppercoats is going to make human soldier tokens, which is going to work for the companion ability of Silvar, and Species Specialist is going to capitalize on all of the lost reinforcements to things from Molten Echoes and Silvar. So the general planning behind the bundle, I think, was pretty cool, apart from just there being, them being required for a Planeswalker that we don't have. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this is going to be helpful for you guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at that gameplay that I got for you. So in this gameplay, you're going to actually get to see all the cards from the bundle working together in one deck. I chose to use Karn as my red, white, and black Planeswalker. So you need to have the colorless Planeswalker, as I mentioned earlier. And so I chose to use Karn. Now I'm running a bunch of guild gates. I want to be able to get as much mana as I can as quickly as possible. I want to be able to use Karn's first ability so that I can draw into all the different pieces. And so here I get the guild gate down and I get Species Specialist. So this is where we get to see our first Species Specialist action. I've also got Silvar that I just drew, and you'll see that I actually have Call the Coppercoats in my hand. Now Call the Coppercoats is currently disabled in my hand just because you can't actually cast it unless your opponent has a creature on the battlefield. You have to wait for them to have creatures. And so at this stage, I'm really just trying to build up gates to try and get more mana. And that's exactly what happens here. So I draw a Molten Echoes here. That's the last card in the bundle. So we've now got all the different pieces of the bundle together. I'm going to go ahead and prioritize, surprise, surprise, playing a guild gate. I'm going to freeze down Silvar here so that I can get it to work with Molten Echoes. I want to try and have Silvar and Molten Echoes do their thing together. And then maybe Species Specialist will be kind enough to draw us a card. So behind Silvar, I'm charging up Ruinous Ultimatum just in case. I'm up against a white-green deck that is an enchantment-based Planeswalker in Calyx. So just in case it's some kind of Starfield nonsense, I just wanted to make sure I had some kind of defense against that. I'm moving a Guildgate up just because I want the mana. Mana is a very good thing to have in this game. Molten Echoes, just taking a quick look. So when you play a creature, it doesn't have to be cast. You're going to get it to reinforce itself. So I was just making sure on the wording. I make my match. I get Molten Echoes. I get Silvar. Silvar is bringing down the companion token. Silvar attacks. It's the end of the turn. We get our 2 tokens, and here you'll see that Species Specialist is not drawing us a card. So hopefully this is one that we're going to see a fix for soon, as there is only one way that I found to get the card draw from the Specialist. So here I'm just double checking it, making sure that there is indeed something wonky going on. So I'm going to use Thran Legacy here again. It's Karn's first ability. I use it a lot. I just want to make sure that I get my mana bonuses all maxed out, and I love the card advantage. I want to keep drawing as many gates as I can, just keep getting them down so that they'll fill my hand with mana. That confirm cancel prompt that just came up is Silvar's prompt. So that's the prompt that enables you to lose creature reinforcements in order to power up Silvar with that +1/+1 and give him prevent damage until end of turn. So here I'm going to use it just so you guys can see it. You'll see that Silvar gets the permanent +1/+1. You'll see that Silvar gets the prevent damage, and you'll see that the human token on top went from 4 reinforcements to 3. You'll also see that our little dude, the Species Specialist, once again, it did not draw us a card and give it mana. So just keep that tucked away. So here we're going to play some more gates. We're going to play Elspeth. Remember, for Silvar, you need to have 4 cards that are going to produce human tokens. Elspeth is kind of like the best case scenario for that. So I went ahead and I ran Elspeth in this deck so that I could also get more human tokens. And so really with this deck, I'm really just looking to showcase the different cards in the bundle and put them all together. Now, that being said, I found that the cards in this bundle definitely work best if you use them separately. So not all of the cards in the bundle are optimal. So the Molten Echoes is a very strong card, and it's one that you definitely use in a different deck, just like I did in the earlier Sarkhan clip where the guy's revenge got really big and one-shot an opposing Sarkhan. For Species Specialist, you're going to want to wait until it gets fixed before you tinker around with it. And then for Silvar, you do need to have those 4 cards that have the human that produce human tokens, and so it does make sense to run Call the Coppercoats with it, especially if you're up against a Planeswalker that has abilities that are going to be making tokens like Nissa. Then that's a great thing. So here you'll see that I'm getting the confirm prompt in order to be able to use Call the Coppercoats a second time. And so you saw the first card in my hand, which was another Call the Coppercoats, getting its mana drained. And then Ruinous Ultimatum is going to come in like a wrecking ball and get rid of Calyx's world. So amazing card, but not what I'm covering here. We get another Guildgate. We're getting another Silvar confirm or not now prompt. And you're going to see that I'm not using it very often. And it's just if my opponent has something with Berserker, or if they've got multiple things with Defender, I know they're going to block Silvar, then it's nice to have, just because it's like, oh, okay, Silvar just doesn't die. And so this is the last turn. This is going to be the end of Calyx. And so this is a pretty good look at really every card in the bundle. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I hope that it helps you decide if you want this bundle for yourself when it comes out into the vault, as we wrap things up here against Calyx. And that's it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.